What about later in life? I think somewhere in your book you say there is, you transmit, I think, 80 million different bacteria or something if you have a decent kiss or something like that. So how is that going to affect your... Well, there's a lot about sex in your book, including sex started in Scotland, as I said earlier on, but not a lot. So how is...
It definitely did,
yeah. Well, go on, tell us why sex is invented in Scotland then.
So what I'm interested in is a little bit of evolutionary biology and why we have sex. So microbes, of course, prokaryotes don't need to sexually reproduce. They do it asexually, and it's very, very efficient to asexually reproduce. Having sex takes a lot of time and it slows you down. You've then got to gestate an infant for 9 months. It's really not a very good way of reproducing, yet we do it. And so
I wouldn't say it's not a good way. I think it's an efficient way. The other way is an efficient way, but
well, in an efficient way, exactly right. And so why do we do it? And one of the theories that we do it is because it effectively allows us to protect ourselves against parasites and gives us more resilience against pathogens that might want to do us harm, and that it also might be a very good way of sharing symbionts and mutualistic microbes that might help protect us. And sexual reproduction is a relatively new thing. It was first done in fish and first discovered in Scotland about 380 million years ago, which is why I think sex was invented in Scotland. But I also, the point that I was also trying to make in my book is that our thinking around sexual health is almost entirely informed by pathogens. We only think about the harm that can be caused by sexually transmitted diseases, and we don't think about the way that sex allows us to potentiate the spread of healthy microbes that we really need, but also the value that healthy microbes have in our urogenital tract and in our mouths in protecting us from disease and protecting us from harm. So the promotion of a healthy urogenital microbiome is actually a part of sexual health. It's an important way to protect our more vulnerable members of the public that really need to have safe sex. And it's also a very important way to promote fertility. So we know that the microbiome has a very important role in determining recurrent miscarriage rates in women. And we know that actually the vaginal microbiome is kind of unusual in that actually a healthy microbiome typically has high levels of diversity, so large numbers of different types of microbes. But actually the vaginal microbiome is a bit more of a monoculture, and it's predominantly dominated by lactobacilli. And the women that don't have this are much more likely to be infertile. And actually you can, in some quite interesting work recently published, you can potentially change their risk of infertility through microbiota transplantation of the vaginal microbiome. So the point I'm making is that sex has an evolutionary basis for the sharing of microbes that we really need to help us maintain our health. The sexual microbiome should be part of good sexual health practice, and we should promote it. It prevents us from pathogens. It protects us from pathogens and helps us keep it healthy. But it's also a very important part of healthy reproduction. And we do have a global infertility crisis, right? Infertility rates are dropping in an alarming fashion. And I would argue that the decline in human infertility rates is being driven by the same thing that is climbing our cancer rates, our obesity rates, and our atopy and immune-mediated diseases, which is that it's a ultimate dysfunction in our immunology.